Hello and welcome to the Monday Mechanic. This is episode 4 and your host, TRC Borderline. We are currently up in our lounge, ready to head down to our phone and pick up our job for today. Let's see what we've got. Um, I'll let that one pass. Let's see here, like the charger, possibly actually. Wait, no, don't click it yet. Maybe this one. It's a cannot start the car. That one timing might be a pain in the ass there. It's too easy, too quick. That's too quick too. All right, you know what? We're gonna take the charger. Let's take on this charger. Charger looks like it's a nice job to do. Okay, so let's go. Ooh, this thing is rusty. Damn, son. I probably should have paid attention to the state of the car, because this is grimy. All right, well let's check it out here. So we've got lack of engine power, new engine oil and filter, poor brake performance, gearbox and gears keep slipping. Okay, so you know what? Since we got to drain the oil and replace the filter anyways, I'm just going to jack her straight up and do whatever work from underneath I can do. But first, I'm going to run some tests. So, yeah, we want to go into the engine, examine tools. Now, this car's too old. It's not going to have an OBD port. So we're just going to have to go right for compression and like electronic I feel like the compression should be fine. Okay, maybe not. Let's take a look at the minimum required integrity for parts. 37. So compression's in. So the ignition distributor rotor is already known, which is inside here. This is your ignition distributor, and this is the cap that you have your ignition wires plugged into that plug into the spark plugs around in the engine heads. Basically, ignition wires were before ignition coils. So if we take the wires off and take off the cap, inside will be a little mechanism, a little piece that spins. It's the ignition distributor rotor, and that's basically what spins up to send energy. Um, I'm not 100% on how it works, to be completely honest, but I have a rough idea. I feel like the ignition coil B here is probably going to be an issue. Um, so let's do an electronic meter. I don't think that's going to tell us the ignition coil, but I hope it does. I think ignition coils would be found by Oh no, it does. Okay. Sweet. Yes, and the ignition coil is done. Okay, good. So we have that knowledge now. Last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to check the fuel. So this is going to check the fuel pump. It's in the back in the fuel tank and fuel filter. Okay, so we need a new fuel filter. Fuel pump is acceptable and the carburetor's fine. Okay, so we need a new coil. Where's the filter? There's my filter. And now we're going to have to take off the wires, which it looks like the wires could even be... No, wires are fine. So we want to take these clips off so we can get the cap off here. And here is your rotor. So this is the piece that has been diagnosed already as being bad. So let's see where we're at now. Okay, so we have found everything. So now we know it's the ignition distributor cap, rotor, ignition coil, and the fuel filter. So let's go in, buy those parts so we can put this back together. I know I wanted to put it straight up, but I also wanted to make sure that nothing in the engine area needed for underneath that I was going to skip over. But this is also a pretty quick and easy fix, so we're just going to get it done. So what do we say here? We said fuel filter. There it is. Fuel filter, and then we need the ignition coil B, the distributor cap, and the distributor rotor. Okay. So we can put this bad boy back together now. Put our clips back on. I tend to forget these clips a lot. They're a pain in the ass, especially on the air filter housings. Luckily, these older cars don't have those because the air filter is mounted right on top of the carburetor. Okay, and we'll get our fuel filter back in. There we go. So that first part, now the lack of engine power is completely done. Now we're going to move on to... Actually, you know what? We're going to do... Let's just do the brakes first, and then we'll lift the car straight up. Kind of changing the game plan here. Okay. Now under brakes, we did see drum wheel cylinder. So automatically we do know that there is something in the back. So that's where I'm going to start, is in the back right. So this brake drum looks like it's okay. Yep, that's acceptable. Let's just check this, the shoe in the cylinder. Shoe's fine. Drum wheel cylinder, okay, so that needs to be replaced. So we're just gonna go into brakes, and we're gonna pick up drum wheel cylinder. Now when I'm doing the brakes, I don't normally go through the whole, like all four like sets of brakes, and then buy everything and then go through it again. I just kind of go in like, you know, wheel by wheel, and just fix it, put it back, and then move on. So that's one down. Let's just make sure we're looking good. Yep, and that was the exact first part. So now we're going to check out this side. That brake drum looks pretty shitty, but it's acceptable. Brake shoe for sure. Yes, brake shoe for sure. And the cylinder, so we need a cylinder and a shoe. So the way these brakes work is pretty cool, actually. To my understanding, so you have your, like, you have the brake drum situated over the brake shoe and, like, the brake cylinder or drum wheel cylinder. But now the shoe, like your brake shoes are essentially your pads. Like, those are your pads on the outside. And the drum would be like the rotor in a sense, and then the cylinder is like your caliper. So when you apply brakes, it extends, like the cylinder extends, which pushes the shoe and rub the pads against the inside of the brake drum. It's just interesting to see how things used to work to how they work now, like just to see the evolution of technology in vehicles. Because now the way brakes work is the way these front brakes are going to work. And wow, is that shit. Okay, so we need to replace everything here. So we're gonna take off the calipers. Now the brake caliper cylinder is still acceptable, so we don't have to replace that. Just the caliper itself, the brake pads, and the ventilated brake discs. So typically, at least in this game, all the cars, the fronts, like the front sets, are going to be ventilated brake discs, and then depending on the kind of brakes in the back, if it's a brake drum like this car has, then it's just gonna be the brake drum and like the shoe and the cylinder. However, if it's a like a newer set, like the fronts of these, it's gonna be the caliper with the pads and the rotor, but it's not gonna be a ventilated like the front. The rears in this game seem to always be solids. That's just one thing I've found. And now we're going to buy the parts. So the brake caliper cylinder we don't need. These tend to last a lot longer than the rest of the parts do. So we're going to go and pick up our brake caliper, our brake pads, and our ventilated brake disc. And now, that's like, this is what I'm talking about in the way like technology advances, is now instead of a brake drum, you have a rotor, a brake disc, that now instead of having a shoe, you have pads rubbed on both sides, inside and out, and then you have a brake caliper with I believe a pneumatic cylinder inside that when you apply brakes, that cylinder pushes, closing the pads and giving a tighter. I guess it's tighter and everything too. So I don't know. I just like looking at the different how like different brakes work and everything. It intrigues me in a sense. We're gonna move on to the last tire here in the front right. Last wheel. Aye, that's some shit. So we need. Oh no, the caliper and the cylinder are both acceptable for this job. So are the pads, but we definitely need a fucking disc. That disc is disgusting. See, I don't like in real life, if you're getting your brakes done, like normally like these would all be getting replaced right now. But that should be my brake job done, provided the servo does not need to be replaced. Yep, brakes are done. So now we're going to move on to doing the engine oil and filter change, as well as the transmission. So because this engine is a V8, I do know that the starter has to be taken out from under the car, not in the engine bay like on a i4 or i3. So we're going to lift the car up, and we're going to come over to our oil pan, and we are going to move the oil pan under car lift A, and we are going to drain our oil. Wait, the fuck? That's like tar. Okay, that was gross. So we can put that back, and now let's just do the quick swap of the oil filter. So we're going to go into our engine parts, and we're going to grab an oil filter. And you want to make sure you're grabbing the right filter for the engine, so we want the yellow V8 one. And now we can put that bad boy on, which these you normally only do hand tight. And if you use a tool to really reef those oil filters on, you're an asshole. Because you just made it super hard for the next guy to fix that shit. Or like to take that shit off. Okay, so now on to the transmission. So first thing we're going to do is take off the drive shaft. And we're going to take off the starter. Okay, so now we can take our gearbox out. And we can see the gearbox does need replacing, along with the clutch release bearing, clutch pressure plate. I don't know why that's such a tongue twister for me. the clutch plate as well, and the flywheel. So we got to replace basically everything. So let's grab our clutch plate, clutch pressure plate, clutch release bearing, flywheel, and put these on. Now, I can't really get into too much explanation of how the transmission works because I don't have a full understanding of it myself. Like, I just know the transmission is where your gears are, and the clutch is what shifts the gears. Or, like, you have your shifter, like, I'm not 100% on the science behind it, so I don't want to really get into it because I'm going to end up sounding stupid. So, we need the gearbox now, and it's V8OHVF is the one we're looking for. So we're going to go down and pick that one up. Let's see here. V8OHV, V8OHVF. There it is. So we're going to pick up this gearbox and put her on. Put our starter back in. And the drive shaft. And now we can lower the vehicle back down. And do the final completion of the job by adding oil to the engine. We're using that high-grade soup oil. Soup oil. I don't know how to pronounce that. But it's like premium motor oil. That's what it says on the thing, so only the best of the best for my customers. Close up the hood. Let's check her out here. Okay. Lack of engine power has been fixed. The engine oil and filter have been replaced. Brakes have been fixed, and all gearbox faults have been completed. So this job is now done. Paying out just over $10,000. Right on. Let's finish the order, get our payment, and this has been episode 4 of the Monday Mechanic. I hope you enjoyed, and please stay tuned next week on episode 5, where we're going to do something special. We're not just going to take up a job and fix someone else's car. We're going to go to the junkyard, and we're going to find our own piece of crap, crumpled up tin can, and we're going to build something special. And it's probably going to go for more than one episode. It's probably going to be a 3-part episode, I'm thinking, depending on how long it runs for. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. This has been TRC Borderline as the Monday Mechanic. As always, don't forget to smash that like button, leave a comment, share it with your friends, and subscribe for more content. Take care. This is TRC Borderline, signing out.